Greetings one and all, my name is Avery and today is the 15th of October. We are already halfway through Preptober and we still have so much work to do. In my last couple of videos I have been talking about finding the right plot outline style that will suit you best when you begin NaNoWriMo. I will link those below for anyone who hasn't seen them. Yesterday we took a more in-depth look at the jot bin pants method, and today we are going to be looking at the most basic of plot outlining methods known as the plot roller coaster. So what is the plot roller coaster and how exactly does it work? Well, the plot roller coaster outline is based on the idea that pretty much every novel out there, or at least 90% of them, has a plot that follows the same basic pattern. A pattern with 5 main points that, when followed, resemble the path of a roller coaster. Not a very fun roller coaster, I'll admit. It doesn't have any loops on it at all, but I digress. The path of the plot roller coaster is made up of 5 main points: exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. So we start with the exposition. Things are nice and calm. Everything is normal. We are just getting to know our main characters and getting a rough idea of what their normal lives are like. Then we get to our rising action. Something interesting happens that takes our main characters away from their normal lives and throws them into something new. It could be an adventure, it could be danger, it could be love, but there is something happening to the main characters that is making their lives increasingly more exciting. Now that rising action just continues to build. Throughout the novel, things get more and more dramatic. The adventure becomes more thrilling, the danger becomes more dangerous, the love becomes more intense, and this continues to build and build until we get to our climax. The climax is the moment when everything that the rising action has been working towards finally comes to an end. The two love interests finally get together, the detective finally solves the mystery, the sad little orphan finally gets adopted, and the brave knight finally slays the evil dragon. Now, the falling action is what takes place after the climax is done. What is life like for the two lovebirds now that they are finally together? What's the next step for the detective now that the mystery has been solved? How awesome is the little orphan's life going to be now that she's been adopted by a millionaire? And what is the brave knight going to do with his life now that the evil dragon has been slain? Basically, all of the loose ends get tied up and we get to have a glimpse into how the main characters' lives are going to change now that their adventure is over. And finally, we have our resolution. This is the very end of the novel where we get complete closure on our story. All of the questions have been answered. All of the conflicts have been resolved. Everything that needs to be said has been said, and everything that needs to be done has been done. And now the readers get to say their final goodbye to the characters whose journey they have been following, with one last glimpse into their new lives and a brief idea of what the future has in store for them. So let's have a look at an existing novel to see how the plot roller coaster works in practice. The Lord of the Rings is a prime example of a trilogy that perfectly follows the plot roller coaster. First of all, we have our exposition. Frodo is just chilling in the Shire, hanging out with Sam. They are celebrating Bilbo's 111th birthday. Everything is fine. Life is good. But then things start to happen and we get our rising action. Gandalf finds out that Bilbo's ring is actually the one ring that Sauron made to take over the world, and it isn't safe for Frodo to just keep it in the Shire anymore. He has to leave. Then the stakes are raised. The hobbits are not safe. The Nazgul are hot on their tail and the hobbits only just manage to escape with their lives. Then they get to Rivendell, where you think maybe Frodo can finally catch a break, but that doesn't happen. It is decided that Frodo is going to have to take the ring to Mordor and throw it into the fires of Mount Doom himself. Then the action rises some more. The Fellowship gets attacked by a river monster outside the mines of Moria. They get attacked by goblins inside the mines of Moria. Oh no, the Balrog killed Gandalf! Oh no, the Uruk-hai killed Boromir! Now the party's been split up and they all have to go to different places. And the rising action only gets bigger and bigger. That's why it's called rising action. You'll notice this is common in novels where the amount of tension and conflict in the novel steadily increases as the novel continues. For example, the first real conflict that takes place in The Lord of the Rings is that the hobbits are being pursued by the Nazgul. So it's 4 little guys being chased around by 9 big creepy guys. But then by the time you get to the Two Towers, you have the Battle of Helm's Deep, which consists of about 1,000 men trying to defend their fortress against an army of 10,000 orcs. So you can see that the level of tension and conflict has increased significantly. As the books continue, the battles get bigger and bigger. Our characters' lives are in more and more danger until we get to our story's climax, which is the Battle of the Black Gate, where Frodo finally destroys the ring, or I guess technically Gollum destroys the ring, and Sauron and his armies are defeated. Once the battle is over, you have our falling action. Important things are still going on, but things are steadily getting back to normal. Aragorn is crowned King of Gondor, Éomer is crowned King of Rohan, Aragorn marries Arwen, Faramir marries Éowyn, the hobbits all return to the Shire, where they discover that the Shire has been taken over by Saruman, and then we get the Scouring of the Shire, which is yet another battle, but on a much smaller scale than the Battle of the Black Gate, hence why the Battle of the Black Gate is considered the climax, and the Scouring of the Shire is part of the falling action. But of course, the hobbits are victorious. Merry and Pippin are celebrated as heroes. Sam marries Rosie, but Frodo never fully recovers from everything he went through during his journey. And a few years later, we get our final resolution. The elves offer Bilbo and Gandalf a place on a ship that is leaving Middle-earth and heading to the Grey Havens, and Frodo decides to go with them. That is how the story ends. Frodo says his final goodbyes to his friends. Frodo, Bilbo and Gandalf leave for the Grey Havens, and Sam, Merry and Pippin go back to the Shire. So if you decide to use the plot roller coaster, there are only 5 main things that you need to decide on before you start writing your novel. That is why this plotting method is so popular among pantsers. The outline is very, very basic. All you really need to know is, how is your novel going to begin? What is your exposition? Then, what direction is the novel going? What is going to be the rising action that leads to our climax? And of course, what is the climax? What is going to be the most important, most dramatic part of your novel? What is the falling action going to be? What happens to the characters after the events of the climax are over? And what is your resolution? How is your novel going to end? It's also a good idea to have a rough idea of how much time to dedicate on each section, because in most novels, the vast majority of the story focuses on the rising action. Let's say you are writing a standalone novel with an average of 30 chapters. Well, I'd say probably only between 1 and 3 chapters are going to focus on the exposition. You don't want to wait too long before you get into the action of the story, or your readers are going to start to get bored. Then we get into the main meat of your story, the rising action. I'd say in a book with 30 chapters, the rising action is probably going to be somewhere between 20 and 25 chapters. Then the climax would be between 1 and 3 chapters, the falling action between about 2 and 5 chapters, and then the climax of the novel would only be between 1 and 2 chapters. Now, the plot roller coaster method can also be adapted to work for plantsers and plotters. The bare minimum number of plot points you need to get a basic idea of what direction your novel is going to go in is 5, but you could extend this by having 2 or 3 plot points for your exposition, a dozen different plot points for your rising action, 2 or 3 for the climax, 3 to 5 for the falling action, and 2 or 3 ideas for what's going to happen in your resolution. You can make it as complex as you like. Of course, not every novel follows this pattern. Some novels will skip the exposition altogether and jump straight into the rising action. Some novels will jump straight from the climax to the resolution with no falling action in between. Some novels don't even bother with the falling action or the resolution. The story just ends with the climax. So that's what I want you guys to focus on today. Have a think about the plot roller coaster method. Do you think that this could potentially be a good method for outlining your novel, or are you looking for something a bit more complex? If you think it could work for you, then give it a try. Think about what you want the 5 main plot points of your novel to be. What is going to be the exposition? What is going to take up the bulk of the rising action? What's your story's climax? What is the falling action going to be? And what is is going to be your story's resolution. If you want to make your outline a bit more detailed, you can expand on the plot roller coaster by adding multiple different plot points into different sections of your novel. If, on the other hand, you are looking for an outlining method that is a bit more complex, then you are in luck because our plot outlining methods are getting more complex as we go. Tomorrow we are looking at the hero's journey, which is extremely popular among plantsers. It is halfway between being a bare bones basic outline and an extremely detailed plot. But for now, I am done. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. What do you guys think of the plot roller coaster? Does it suit your writing style, or are you really not a fan? Hope I see you guys in the next video. Please like the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more videos from me.